it was a pretty straightforward, I think, picture for me. The first half, we looked bright. There was some energy, some urgency, and certainly some moments. Not as many clear cut as of course I would have liked, but I thought enough moments for us to have forced a goal in that first half period. The one moment that really stood out at the other end, of course, which was a great chance for them, Joe makes a terrific save. But I thought we were the better team first half, but there is no doubt about it. We started poorly. The goal that they end up going in front with gives them not only a huge boost, but it changes the dynamic of the game. There's a different thought process for us and of course for them, and in the end I thought they were worthy winners. The stats will tell us that we've conceded as many clear-cut chances today as we have against any team in this opening 5 games, and I think that just typifies really the quality that they have up front, and when you're chasing a game, you know how damaging they can be. But for me, Joe was man of the match, but for 3 or 4 very, very good saves, it could have been a very tough night in terms of scorelines.
Dre, go ahead.
Gary, you mentioned in your opening statement the amount of chances, the total shots, really. I think there's 16 overall. How frustrating was it in the second half particularly? And when you are playing behind, what are your ideas of how to attack that? And specifically, could you offer what were your ideas for this game? How you were trying to attack Cincinnati?
Yeah, look, I honestly thought the 2 wide players with their pace and their energy create a dimension and a difficulty for a back 3, especially the way they defend. They want to jump their wing backs onto our full backs and get some pressure higher up the field. It really was the best picture that we saw in those opening exchanges where as the half wore on, we saw some overloads down the right hand side. Fafa and Shaq combined quite nicely on 2 or 3 occasions. So if we're talking about the first half, there were enough good moments that I really thought we should have made more of. You know, yes, there's bodies being thrown in front of shots at goal, and some courage shown on their part to stay in the game. When you go behind against a team like this and they play in this back 5, a little bit as we've seen against teams before, when we've gone in front, we're difficult to break down, and they're a good side. So now the choices, the connections, your speed of play, some of the individual moments. I thought there were enough individual moments and enough areas that we got into to again have made more of. Some of the choices looked hesitant, some one-on-one moments that we didn't get the better of. When the deliveries went into good areas or there were connections, there was always a body for them to snuff that out. Were there a couple of penalty shouts? Yes. Do I think they were clear cut? No. But I've certainly seen one or other of them given before, so there's not an awful lot of luck going our way either. But the bottom line is, they made far more chances from the position they were in than we did, and as I said, I thought they were deserved winners.
Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Coach. Can you talk a little bit about Fafa's performance tonight and how he had a couple good chances in the first half, but continued to struggle in the second half?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. The first half, there was an energy, there was a momentum in our game. We got on top. We asked some questions. We got in good positions. There were some moments from dead balls as well as open play, and it looked like the game was certainly moving in our direction. You got to score at that point. You've somehow got to force one of those moments home. And I thought Fafa's performance in the first half was integral in that. You know, there were some nice moments, as I've said, with him and Shaq down that right-hand side. To be perfectly honest, I thought Jacob did a very good job first half as well. We had good width. We managed the ball far better than we did in the second half. And, you know, coming in at the break, there was a lot of optimism. When you concede as quickly as we did in the second period, that optimism diminishes very quickly. The game got stretched. They have some excellent footballers. They managed the ball well. They certainly broke with good intensity and belief. And it made life incredibly difficult when you're not able to build pressure and get guys into deeper areas and then win those regains and those repressing situations. They have an opportunity to get out there, and they do it very well. They play quickly, they play the way they're facing, their techniques are tight and they're clean. And I thought they played around some pressure very, very well. And, you know, put themselves into some excellent goal scoring positions, and but for an outstanding display from Joe, like I said, it could have been far worse.
Claudio, go ahead.
Gary, on that particular, on that goal, it seems like, at least in my opinion, that it was very unlike Nashville in the way you guys always stand up and in close angles when another team is in transition. It seems like on that particular play especially, that went completely nuts. Is that particular on that play, or that was more what was happening on the whole time?
Well, I think you're right in some aspects. You know, in those opening exchanges, you want to try and impose yourself on the opposing team. We'd seen that in the first half. So there are some decisions to make. When do I press? When do I deal with, you know, the runner in behind me? Shaq got overloaded. Acosta did what he did in the opening exchanges of the first half. He drifted wide. Ball got played in. Shaq got caught pretty much in no man's land, and Acosta, with one touch, missed Shaq out, and now they're into the channel with Barrial, who's beyond him. You know, from that point on the halfway line, there's a lot of work to do, and it seemed a little bit too easy for him to get in on his right foot, in and around the edge of the area, and get off a reasonable shot that Joe obviously parries. And I've got to say, you know, we should do better with a rebound. I think Jack slipped on the edge of the box. That awareness and that intensity to be on the second ball. Forwards are always looking to gamble, and, you know, I've got the front foot approach. But nevertheless, you know, the way the goal came about, to your point, was very, very disappointing. And in many ways, it was you know, a reflection of what we saw in New England last week. You know, a poor start. We were on the back foot. You know, is that a physical difficulty? Is that the mental aptitude or focus of starting that second period? And again, if you look back at last week, and I'm trying to make comparisons, we're early in the season, but of course those trends are important to us. We actually had a very good first half in New England, some nice moments, okay, not too many clear-cut chances, but certainly away from home, we looked, the performance was encouraging, but before you know it, within the space of 10 minutes, the game's changed. And if you now compare the two games, they've both ended up in a very similar fashion. And, you know, that for us is, well, for where we are and the experience in our group, you know, there's a lot of disappointed people in there, as you may well understand. It is early, but of course, the encouraging start to the season can be quickly lost. You know, with a couple of defeats and some questions asked. It's 2 goals, but more importantly, not getting on the sheet, not really creating enough clear-cut chances. And if you look at the stats, whilst the efforts at goal look encouraging again, same as last week, what we've actually achieved to trouble the goalkeeper have been minimal. 3 shots on target out of, I think, 17 efforts. that's got to be improved. You know, otherwise you're just not going to see a return in any given game.
We are going to transition to the Zoom. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, Gary, you kind of touched
Recording stopped.
there at the end, but I wanted to ask you about kind of the starts to the second half. Really similar to what we saw in New England. Obviously, it's only 2 games, so maybe not a pattern at this point. But have you had any time to kind of reflect on the similarities and why the past 2 weeks your opponent has just come out and really taken advantage of like the first 5, 10, 15 minutes after halftime?
Ben, I don't have the answer to that. I really don't. I mean, you know, I've walked away from the locker room, and already, of course, you know, your mind's trying to compare and think of similarities, any problems. Last week, I do think there were some concerns and you know, some worries about who was meant to be the shape of the group, and that caused some underlying problems in that first 10 minutes. And maybe even a lack of clarity from me in what we were trying to achieve. So, you know, we're all in this together, so I accept that. I don't actually think that, you know, it's anything to do with how guys go out there and want to attack the game and want to be on the front foot, because both teams want to do that. I think going out there with the right mentality and seeing clear, concise pictures, and not just taking things for granted. You know, there is and can be situations where you've been in a good position, although not got the reward for that, and now you're starting from scratch again. That's what the break does. You know, they've gone in at half time and I'm sure felt, okay, it's been difficult, we've weathered a little bit of pressure there, and we're in the game, which is exactly how I would have been thinking. The moment and the opportunity to get on top again has got to be earned. You know, it's not going to be given. The 15-minute break, as we see in so many games, can offer the opposing team or the team that's been under some pressure the chance to regroup, reassess, and go again. And they certainly did that.
Tim, go ahead.
You talked about your team's difficulty creating clear-cut chances, and that was probably particularly true after Cincinnati went ahead. What do you have to do to find a way, especially when the opponent has the ability to kind of play a bit lower of a block like they were doing at that stage to create some of those chances? What is missing tonight that you can work on and improve in future contests?
Well, look, there's always things that we can work on and continue to work on. You know, we have particular individuals in our group that I think we've seen some really bright football or soccer from over the course of a period of time, and I include Jacob and guys like CJ and of course Hanny, with the type of output that we've seen over the last 2 seasons. We added Fafa to that. Teal's also been a nice focal point for the group, albeit through some injuries last year, but his return was excellent for the time that he had on the field. Tonight in that second period, I think if you look at all 5 of those guys that I've mentioned, they'll all be going home tonight thinking to themselves, if only, there were moments there I could have and maybe should have done a little bit better. And that's not any one individual, and we've seen in the past how much we've relied on Hanny. He's yet to get off the mark. So therefore, we're missing a very big piece of the puzzle creatively and in a goal-scoring fashion. That puts pressure on other people to obviously step up to the plate. I do firmly believe, and we've seen in the couple of other home games that we've had, that I think we have the guys that are more than capable of achieving it. What we've seen tonight in that second period is a very good Cincinnati team. the shape that they play it can certainly be awkward for us in our back four shape, but it was awkward for them in the first half. But again, they found a moment, they found an opportunity, and in fact found more than that as the game opened up and we started to chase it. But as far as creation goes, I think just a tad more composure, just a little bit more confidence in your own ability to take someone on, or to offer a real defined and clean creative moment, rather than something that's hurried and rushed and forced, that it's there, well, it's not quite, and I think that really is the difference when you get into those final third moments, and when people are feeling confident and on their game. You see that more when they're playing against good players and it doesn't come quite as easy. There's more that you've got to draw out yourself, and then you're finding out whether you can or you can't.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you taking the time. We're going to transition to the locker room. Joe Willis will be available.
Thank you.